Hi all, welcome. Welcome everyone. Thank you for joining. Wow, great to see so many of you here already. We are going to get started in just a few minutes, but as folks are hopping on, feel free to settle in, get comfortable, and we have a check-in question for you. Feel free to answer in the chat. Feel free to share where you're joining from today and your favorite national park. Welcome as more folks are hopping on. So glad to have you all here. Feel free to introduce yourself in the chat and share your favorite national park if you'd like. We've got some Yosemite, Yellowstone, Acadia, another Yellowstone, another Yosemite, glaciers coming in. Welcome. Oh, it's so great to see people joining from all over the country. Sequoias, Yellowstone. Welcome, Mary. Hi, Judy. Hi, Mark. Wow, Samuel once climbed Half Dome. Amazing. We're going to get started in just a minute or so to let more folks join. But it's so great to see all of you. Welcome. We've got Mesa Verde, Canyonlands. Great. Oh, Steve worked 5 summers in Rainier, but would pick Yellowstone. Capitol Reef, it's a great one. Smoky Mountains, wonderful. These are great. All right, welcome. And if anybody would like closed captioning, unfortunately we don't have that available to us on YouTube, but you can join on LinkedIn if you need closed captioning. All right, welcome. Okay, folks are still joining. Our numbers are going up, but why don't we get started? So hi all, my name is Marissa. It's really great to see some familiar names joining us tonight. I see, some of you who are returning, who have joined for previous action hours, and it's wonderful to see some new names. Welcome to those who are joining for the first time. Some of you noticed that we took July off from doing these action hours for some rest and recovery. We hope you all also have found some rest during the summer and are coming back renewed and ready to take action. And it's certainly been quite a summer. Things are tough out there and they keep getting tougher. A lot has happened since we were all together on the June Action Hour. We've seen heat waves and wildfires and smoke affecting a lot of the country. And of course, the floods that tore through Texas, just devastating so many people and homes and businesses, including many of our Sierra Club staff, volunteers, many of you. The protests over ICE raids in LA continued, and the National Guard now in DC. More cities, including my own, Oakland, are on Trump's list. So if we're feeling overwhelmed, if it's feeling harder to focus, or if it's feeling unclear about where to take meaningful action, just want to say that makes sense. It's a really hard time out there. And this action hour is not going to address all the big, bad, scary things out there. But we wanted to acknowledge the context that we're all living through right now and invite you to take action against it in other ways, in whatever ways you can. All of our work is connected. We cannot fight climate change or protect the environment or do any of the things that we're all working so hard to do without a functioning democracy. So keep an eye out from other opportunities from us and from across the progressive movement to do all that we can. We have to continue working, continue organizing piece by piece, sharing the load together and tackling all the different parts of all the challenges we face. So with that, today our action hour will be focused on the National Park Service, which is also under attack as we celebrate its 109th birthday, which was yesterday. So it's over 100 years now. Our parks and our public lands have been national treasures that the Park Service has worked to protect. These are open spaces, clean water, beautiful landscapes for all of us. They're habitats for plants and animals, and they've connected us to our history, to our culture. They are a place where so many of us take our families to get outside and create memories. And they've also been an economic engine for many towns adjacent to the parks. So today, our actions are going to be in service of protecting these places and all the things that keep them working. So I'm going to introduce this space a bit more in just a minute, but just like always, we always start this way. I want to open with a poem because art and music and poetry are things that can help us get through the uncertainty that many of us are experiencing right now. They can bring us together. They can tap into the feelings we need. They can help us imagine the world that we're trying to build, even if it's not here yet. So this poem comes from the National Park Service Art in the Parks program. This is from an Alaskan poet, Linda Schandelmeyer, and her work reflects her experiences during a 2012 residency at Denali. So this is called Denali Sojourn. I give myself up, the woman who gardens, the wife, the brooder, sitting at this wooden table, looking out the south window at the mountains. I am deep in the spell of those who stayed here before me. Sometimes my mind goes blank, staring at it all the land, all the quiet. Other times this place is an opening, a door I step through where orange lichen, bursting from the rock, or a white-crowned sparrow's melodious song can suddenly be alien or heartbreaking. And art has actually been part of the history of national parks since the 1870s, when Hudson River School painters captured majestic Western landscapes. And that was one of the first ways that the public came to see these special places in America for the first time, and really kind of captured the public imagination and helped be part of the push to spur the preservation of these lands for future generations. So we honor all that art and poetry today. So with that, what are we doing here today? For those of you new to Sierra Club, maybe you're not even sure what this thing is. So welcome. The Sierra Club is one of the oldest and largest grassroots environmental organizations in the country. We have 64 chapters in every state, Washington, D.C. and Puerto Rico. We have an outings program that gets people into nature, and we run national, state, and local campaigns to fight climate change and protect wild places, wildlife, and our communities from pollution. And we started doing action hours when Trump was elected with the intention of creating a monthly space for concerned, overwhelmed, busy people to make sense of all that's coming at us and just set aside at least 1 hour a month to show up, get the information you need, and take some meaningful action together. And since January, we've done some pretty good work together. We've made tens of thousands of calls to Congress. We've submitted letters to the editor of thousands of local newspapers. We've shared hundreds and hundreds of posts on social media to get the word out. We've created art. We've sent handwritten letters. We've reached out to our friends and family, and a whole lot more. And many of you have shared that these action hour spaces were the first time that you had ever taken action like these. And it was a lot easier than you thought it would be when you were doing it alongside hundreds of other people. And that was so great to hear. So if it's your first time here, Or if you're a little nervous or unsure because you've never done any of these things before, don't worry. We've got your back. We will walk you through it step by step. So we're going to start now with a issue briefing where two Sierra Club experts will provide an overview of what's happening and then invite you into taking action. So yeah, as we kind of said, our parks are really under serious threat. The deep cuts that the Trump administration has made are stripping essential staff who keep the parks safe, accessible, functional, welcoming, and these aren't just numbers on a budget line, right? These are rangers who guide our hikes. They are interpreters. They are workers who maintain trails. And without them, we're really seeing both the visitor experience and the protection of these lands really start to suffer. But there's also another troubling effort underway to erase or rewrite the histories that our parks help preserve. These parks, many of them are much more than scenic landscapes. They're living classrooms. They teach us about Indigenous stewardship, the fight for civil rights, the struggles of our communities of working people, and it's a full, complex, sometimes beautiful and sometimes painful story of America. And when those lessons are silenced or rewritten or diminished, we lose that truth, and we lose the chance to learn from it, which we really need right now. So we are here together to take action. We hope that this hour is just one way you can do that. And with that, let's move on to the actions and the agenda. So next slide, please. We are, like I said, going to move into our issue briefing in just a moment. And then our two actions today are going to be thanking rangers. We're going to be sending virtual postcards to thank rangers across the National Park Service, and then submitting personal comments to the Department of the Interior to protect the history of our parks and protect all that our parks stand for. And when we get to those actions, we will walk you through them step by step. So we're not quite there yet, but we will be soon. I also want to make a quick note here before we dive in about the technology we're using. We're streaming live across Sierra Club's YouTube and LinkedIn channels, and people are joining from both today. If you need closed captioning, like I said, that's available on LinkedIn. And then please use the chat function to ask questions and make comments. Our chat monitors will be working diligently to reply. We may not get a response to everyone immediately due to how many folks are here today. Great problem to have, but we'll do our best. And we will have also a few moments of Q&A with our speakers. So feel free to keep those questions coming in the chat, and we'll get to as many as we can. And then finally, let's just take a quick look at our community norms. So we ask you all to engage with kindness and respect, that you be willing to try things out today. Some of you might be very familiar and comfortable with the types of actions we're going to offer, and others of you might not be, and that's okay. And we hope that you're willing to give it a shot and just try it out. And if you hate it, you can tell us afterwards. We do want to know. We really welcome your questions, comments. Constructive disagreements are great, but please engage with respect. And of course, prejudice or bullying of any kind will not be tolerated. Okay, I'm going to pass it now over to the wonderful Connor McIntosh to talk us through the briefing. And again, if you have any questions while Connor and Jerry are speaking, please write them in the chat, and we'll get to a few after the briefing.
Thanks, Marissa. Hi, everyone. I'm Connor McIntosh. I use she, her pronouns, and I work for the Sierra Club managing the Yosemite Conservation Heritage Center, often referred to as the YCHC or the Center. And we're located in Yosemite Valley in Yosemite National Park, which is the traditional homelands of the Southern Sierra Miwok. before we dive in super deep into these, I do want to mention that the Southern Sierra Miwok are one of the last of the 7 tribes that were here in Yosemite Valley, or in Yosemite National Park, in the bounds of what is now Yosemite National Park, fighting for federal recognition. And so as activists that we are, you can sign their petition. If you just do a simple Google search for the Southern Sierra Miwok Nation, their petition is up and online. And yeah, they have been fighting for federal recognition for years and years and years, and they're just getting closer and closer every day. So your voice can be heard and will help right now. All right. So what is the Yosemite Conservation Heritage Center? This special place is a National Historic Landmark and has been in Yosemite Valley since 1903, opened to the public in 1904, and it was the first visitor center in Yosemite. The Sierra Club was instrumental in getting Yosemite up and running and gaining its federal protection status. We are still here very much doing what we did in 1904. We see thousands of visitors through this building's door every year. We're upwards towards 13,000 visitors between the months of May and September. And the Sierra Club helped Yosemite gain its federal recognition. Parts of Yosemite were already getting federally protected, but then the Sierra Club, with a few big names, if we all know the name John Muir, started organizing in 1892 to get all of what is now Yosemite federally protected. So it wasn't always federally protected. It was originally back held with the state of California, which is pretty wild. And then before that, with the original stewards, the Southern Sierra Miwok. So the Sierra Club has played this huge role in the National Park Service. If you look at the National Park Service history, the Stephen Mather, who was the first director of the National Park Service, was a Sierra Club member. John Muir helped national parks come to be. There were so many key players, and there still are today, working in the federal government, who are Sierra Club members. And so we, as an organization, have just helped protect these federal lands in ways that is ongoing all the time, every day. And this call is super instrumental in helping the Sierra Club continue to steward these lands. So what's going on down here in Yosemite specifically? And I think it's really important to note that I am going to talk about these issues that are coming to you from a Yosemite lens, because other pieces of federal land, other national parks are seeing the same problems and issues that we're having here, but they have different kind of impacts, right? So this list that's comprised here in the bullet points are not necessarily listed in importance, but kind of in the order that they happened. So we saw the mass layoffs in February, where about 1,000 federal employees lost their jobs. In Yosemite, we saw about 10 of our staff. And in the wintertime, we have around 800 staff here in Yosemite. That number doubles in the summertime. So it was a huge impact. You probably heard of the locksmith that got laid off, who was doing comedy sketches and speaking out aloud about it, and the upside down American flags that were flown on El Capitan, the largest granite monolith in this country. That all happened during that time. So while 10 folks got laid off here out of 800, may not sound like that big of an impact, but when you think about how many individual roles there are in the National Park Service, he was the one locksmith that we have in Yosemite, which is crazy. Another guy who's the only EMT for Devil's Postpile over on the east side of the Sierra was laid off during that time. So we see these different impacts. And then if you have smaller national parks, who have maybe a staff of 10 year round, if one of them get laid off, it's a huge impact. So those layoffs really shook this space up and had a devastating effect. We have seen loss of funding. You may have seen headlines about this. Credit card usage was dropped down to about $1, which you can't buy anything. So this led into so many different problems with our research divisions, who are doing research on the giant sequoias, fishers, bears, some of these megafauna, mega iconic, beautiful things that we love. That research is now getting lost because they cannot buy or purchase the things that they need to continue that research, right? We have also seen a loss of our management. These folks were not laid off initially, but have been forced out via regulations like you being forced to come back into the office. There was a number of folks here that were hired, told that they could work remotely. And these are some of our higher up management positions. And then when they were told to come back into the office, even though they were promised to be work outside of the office, they just couldn't make it happen because they had moved or had families or other implications that they couldn't get back into the office. So when you come into a national park, you're seeing a lot of our seasonal staff, which were allowed to be hired on. Originally, they were not, and everybody got really stressed. But the seasonal staff are running a majority of these parks along with volunteers. As Marissa mentioned, we are also dealing with this erasure of history. Here in Yosemite, this is some very high stress about erasing the Indigenous folks' stories here, because they are still here with us today. We don't talk about them in the past tense, right? So their story needs to be told in their quest to gain federal recognition. Their stories, it's pretty gnarly. It's gnarly what the conservation movement did and what national parks did in the forced removals of these peoples. So like Marissa so eloquently put, like it's a very difficult history, but needs to be told in order to honor all the people that were here before us. We also are stressed, like, who are we not going to see now if we erase history, right? Like, who are the people who are going to be coming into the parks, and who are the people who are not going to be coming into the parks if we erase just crucial parts of our backstory here in this space? Most recently, you may have seen headlines. We had an unlawful termination here of a park ranger who, on their free time, hung a trans flag off the side of El Capitan. They were not working. They were not in uniform. They did not use park resources. Totally free time, did all their planning on their free time, and they were laid off. Wrongfully terminated, and they are fighting that. As of today, Yosemite National Park employees have just become unionized, which is incredible. So maybe we can do a little fighting back. But all that to be said, there is great turmoil right now in the fear of what can federal employees do in their off time, which should be lawfully protected. And then this administration is now coming after and saying, no, you cannot do this on your own time. Morale is low, but our park staff, they're resistant, they're feisty, and they're continuing to share their joy and their love of the spaces that they're in with everybody. No matter who you are, where you're coming to visit from, these are really fantastic human beings that are going to love and enjoy any support that we can give. So all of your actions today are just going to be amazing. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry. Thank you. My name is Jerry James. I'm the Deputy Director of the Sierra Club's Outdoors for All campaign. We focus on expanding universal access to nature for children and youth. We have several programs that include the Military Outdoors program, establishing Nearby Nature, the Outdoors for Alliance for Kids, which is a coalition that encourages youth and protects access for youth and families to get outdoors, trains at the trails, and then Welcome Inclusive Public Lands. And then we also helped found a coalition called the Coalition for Outdoor Renaming, which is focused on removal of racist derogatory place names from the federal landscape. So thank you. And, kind of picking up from like where Connor talked about in Mo, this year has been, a tumultuous year. It's been a year of like so much change and just a lot of negative energy. But the great thing is, this community has really showed up. I want to first of all thank our, wonderful Sierra Club chapters and y'all, our activists across the country. We've been engaged in this month-long mobilization this month, delivering hundreds of postcards thanking land management agency staffers, like the folks that Connor talked about for their service. Folks have showed up at congressional town halls, led cleanup events, took people out on outings, and wrapped in the messaging of protecting people in our shared outdoor spaces. And what's kind of cool is like, not only in our Western chapters that have some of the biggest acreage of, public lands, but we even have folks like Ellen, who's Elaine, who's a volunteer in Missouri, who hosted an outing to, small gathering to thank National Park Service staff. So it's really cool to see the creativity and how our community shows up across various geographies. And that reminds us how deeply folks care about our public lands. This action comes at a really, critical time. And I'm going to talk about, a secretarial order that came out. And it kind of correlates to what Connor was talking about the erasure of Indigenous people and in history. So in May, the administration in the Department of Interior issued Order 3431. And the goal was, essentially to strip away what they call ideological and disparaging things from interpretation, signage, exhibits, and digital content of the Department of Interior and its agencies like the National Park Service. And what that order essentially does is threatens to erase, the kind of complex, truthful histories that our public lands are meant to tell. Recently our president said this, you can Google it, that, the Smithsonian museums talks too much about slavery and not enough about the great things. Just pause there. Kind of crazy. And we're seeing the impacts of this kind of, whitewashing, this, I think we're in this kind of modern, post-Reconstruction era of, Denali, the indigenous name of our tallest peak in the country, reverting back to Mount McKinley. We're seeing the weaponization of a tragedy to strip an indigenous name from a wildlife refuge. At Muir Woods National Monument, there was an exhibit that acknowledged the indigenous displacement and also the role of women in actually saving the site from logging. And this was one of the first removals under this order. And, these aren't small changes. This strikes the core of how our nation's story gets told. But again, the community showed up. We haven't sat on the sidelines. So together with like our chapters, y'all, coalition partners, we've been mobilizing all year. And we've had over 35,000 people engage in digital actions to protect the National Park Service, sending messages to Congress. More than 12,000 people in March turned out for rallies, including a lot of our Sierra Club activists and chapters. And then we launched our Protect What Connects Us campaign to push back against Order 3431 and protect our shared history on public lands. And since that order was issued, we have organized thousands of comments, and y'all are going to be part of that tonight, to defend, public lands' responsibility to tell the complex, truthful histories of our lands. Places like, Tuskegee Airmen. I'm an airman. I was in the Air Force. Tuskegee Airmen National Historic Site, which honors, Black airmen who fought for their country, a country that, segregated, and they had to deal with racism. Brown versus Board of Education, Harriet Tubman Historic Site. So many awesome places. What's kind of interesting is our environmental law program received public records request documents this week from the Department of Interior, and it showed that the first batch of comments, the BLM said nothing needs to be removed, and most of the comments overwhelmingly oppose erasure or defunding of our public lands. We also work with our coalition core, the Coalition for Outdoor Renaming Education, to circulate a national letter, and over 120 organizations signed on from across the environmental, outdoor recreation, historic preservation, and social justice sectors. And that letter was delivered to Secretary Burgum and Acting NPS Director Boren this week, and she actually acknowledged receipt. And that's really cool to 120 to organize that many orgs that are concerned and pushing back. It was a big deal. And that's what this power looks like, from Yosemite to sites like Manzanar, which is a Japanese internment camp during World War II, to Colorado, from big parks to small town cleanups. Y'all, our chapters have made it clear. These lands belong to us all, and so do our stories. So as we celebrate the National Park Service birthday, let's carry this forward. Let's protect what connects us, our complex shared histories, and our shared wonderful outdoor spaces. Together, we can ensure our public lands remain places of honesty, enjoyment, and health for generations to come. And I thank you all so much for being here with us this evening.
Thank you, Jerry and Connor. That was really great. Okay, we're going to do one quick question and then move on because we got some actions to do here. Connor, I think these are for you. Maybe I'll combine two. Someone asked, have any of the folks who've been let go been rehired to our national parks? And also specifically, Yosemite is a international destination, and Jeffrey asked, have these numbers decreased significantly or not so much?
Great question. The original 1,000 that happened in February were reinstated. A judge declared that was unlawful terminations. So they were brought back on. Some of those folks chose not to come back because of emotions that were tied to that. And I think that's totally fair. They didn't feel safe coming back into this work environment. So we did see impacts from that. Or they applied for other jobs and got other jobs. That happened to many of them too. And then the question from Jeffrey about international visitation. At the beginning of the season, we knew about 1/3 of our international visitation was down. Beginning of the season, starting in like April, May. Those numbers, I haven't had an update on. The Park Service is stretched a little thin, and so our meetings with the Park Service haven't been prolific this season. But looking at visitation stats for Yosemite, which is all public, if you just Google Yosemite visitor statistics, we are on track to have almost the same number of visitors if the next few months for the rest of 2025 track the same as well. So we're still looking at about 4 million visitors here. Whether they're international or not, we don't have that breakdown yet.
Great, thank you. And then Jerry, I think this one is more in line with your work, but I'm actually just going to use it to pivot into our actions. The question from Stephen is, how can I help with Order 3431? But I'm just gonna move us right into actions, if that's okay, because that's what we're here to do. So great question, and we're going to get into that now. So here are the two actions that we mentioned before. Here's where we do something about all the challenges we just heard. So first, thanking a ranger. And as Connor was talking, one thing I was thinking about was just imagining all of the people who are tasked with protecting these parks, with making this a good experience for families from people all over the world come to these America's national treasures. And so we're going to spend some time to thank a ranger, to show our appreciation, to uplift the amazing work that they do. But it's not just going to be a private appreciation. We're also going to do this as publicly as possible. So we're going to encourage you to share it on social media so that your networks see it, so that as many people as possible are aware of these cuts that are happening to our parks. So here's a little bit more about why we're sending these letters. We just talked about it. Rangers and staff make the parks possible. They work every day. They work so hard. And the more and more cuts that we see from the Trump administration, the less able that these folks are to do their jobs. They're trying to do more with less. And like I said, trying to make these things visible, public, so that we can call for more resources and more protection for our parks. So we have a social media toolkit that makes this really easy. You can pick a design, pick which social media platform you want to use, and fill in a little note of gratitude and then share it. It's fast, it's very simple, and it helps so many people get their news, their opinions are shaped by what they see on social media. Politicians pay attention to what's going on social media. So we're really trying to engage more in this space to help shift the public conversation, help shape the narrative, and offer our thanks in this way. And of course, if you're not on social media, or if you just don't want to share on social media for whatever reason, we encourage you to write a handwritten note, and you can send it directly to your nearest national park or your favorite national park. And we have a link in the chat where you can find that contact information. But for everyone who's willing, we're going to encourage you to post a letter to a ranger on on social media. So we're going to pause for a few moments to do that together right now. So feel free to open up the toolkit and share. It should, hopefully only take a few minutes, and then we'll come back to move on to our next action. In case folks are wanting more guidance, we have the link to our worksheet, which includes more details at sc.org/aug worksheet. See, some folks are getting their virtual thank you cards posted. Let us know if you're running into any issues in the chat. And let us know when you're done. Feel free to leave a note, leave a comment, and let us know when you're finished so we can move on to the next action. Great. We're seeing some people say done. That was easy. Some people running into trouble. Socia's not opening anything. So usually, Socia will automatically copy the text to your computer and automatically download the image, and then you go to the social media. It should open up the platform of your choice, and then you go click on compose, but you have all the things already ready, copied to your clipboard and downloaded. I hope that helps, Carol. Seeing a lot of done, great. Question about what photo do I upload? So it automatically will download a photo that you're welcome to use. Great, and you can tag the National Park Service if you are able to on your post. Great. All right, seeing more dones. If you haven't quite finished, that's okay. Please finish after the call. This is great. Oh, that's great, Krista. Wonderful. Okay, and our wonderful tech folks will try to help reply to any specific situations or people who are having trouble. It looks like a lot of folks got it. Okay, great. So before we move on to our second action, I'm going to pass it first to my colleague Raquel to talk more about Sierra Club chapters and how you can get involved locally. Some of you have been asking how you can get involved with advocacy around your local parks and public lands, how we can prevent logging, things like that. Sierra Club is doing so much around the country all the time, and a lot of that work happens through our local chapters. So this is one great way to get involved with that, and Raquel will share more. So over to you, Raquel.
Thank you, Marissa. Hi, everyone. So happy to be sharing this space with you all, environmental warriors. My name is Raquel Fernandez Makarov, and I am the Sierra Club's organizing capacity director. At the Sierra Club, our chapters are the foundation of our movement. With 64 chapters across the U.S. and Puerto Rico, our chapters are building power on the ground to resist harmful environmental policies, push back against the Trump agenda, and tackle pressing environmental challenges at their state and local levels. No matter what's happening at the federal level, our chapters bring people together to organize, take action, and make real progress in their communities. They help advance renewable energy solutions, advocate for clean air and water, protect wildlife and public lands, like we've been hearing, and ensure local voices are heard at the state legislature. But most importantly, they remind us that we're not in this fight alone. Sierra Club chapters create opportunities to build joy and community and continue to fight. By connecting with your local chapter, you can make an impact in your community while also helping drive change at the federal level. We encourage you to get involved. Follow the link that's shared in the chat and connect with your local chapter after this call and join the local movement. Thank you so much.
Hey all, thanks Raquel. So my name's Hillary. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm on the Sierra Club's digital team, and I'm gonna get us moving with our final action. So thank you all so much for thanking a ranger. Now we're gonna push back a little bit. So currently the Department of the Interior is collecting comments on how our national parks and public lands tell the story of who we are as a country. You've heard this a little from Jerry and Connor and Mo. We really need to make sure our stories are being told and presented honestly. As Jerry mentioned, the Trump administration has signaled through Executive Order 3431 that they are wanting to roll back protections for Indigenous names and histories, and it threatened to erase the hard truths from the places where they should be remembered the most. The good news is it's been backfiring overwhelmingly. The comments that the American people, all of us, have been leaving have been in support of our park workers, preserving our history, and environmental protections. So we're going to keep it up. Submitting a comment is one of the best ways we can fight back. Each comment is entered into the official record, and together they show that we demand honesty, inclusivity, and respect for our parks. So when agencies are seeing a flood of our public input, it really starts to add up. So in a second, I am going to share my screen. We're going to be submitting comments directly into NPS, so nationalparkservices.gov. We'll share the link in the chat, and it's also in the worksheet that we sent around. And you'll be able to directly add your comment there. We do have a sample comment in the worksheet, but we're really going to encourage you all to take a few minutes to write something personal, and we do have prompts for that. So let me share my screen so I can walk through where we're going to be adding our comments. One moment. Okay. Whoops. Sorry, there we go. Okay, so you're going to submit your feedback here. You can absolutely select, the drop-down menu isn't popping up, but when you click on this drop-down menu, it'll pop up a whole list of all of our national parks. You don't have to pick a park. If you'd like to, you can pick the nearest park to you, or just a park that has a specific meaning to you that you want to write about. For what is your topic or feedback, we recommend saying something else as we're encouraging folks to share their story about a park that means something to you, an experience you've had, why these histories are so important. But if you do have a comment that specifically relates to one of these other topics, feel free to select whichever one works. And then before you click submit, after you've written your comment, please copy it, and you can either do one of two things. You could either paste it here in the comments on YouTube or LinkedIn so that everybody else can see what you've written and be inspired by it if they're not finished with theirs. Or if you don't feel like sharing with everybody on the call right now, we completely understand. You can email your comment to us, and we have instructions for who to send that to in the worksheet. So just make sure you save your comment somewhere. And in the worksheet, which is being pasted in the chat again, we have a sample comment as well as some prompt questions to get you thinking about what you can write. So for example, here, let me stop sharing my screen and go back to the slides. Oh, perfect. You can share a little bit about, let's go to the next slide, please. Great. What a story about a national park or public land that you visited. Describe why learning and having different facets of history, in our parks is important. What we lose out on if we're only sharing positive stories throughout history. Or you could share something you're planning or something that you're looking forward to. Yeah, it's up to you what you want, what feedback you want to leave. But like we were saying, these comments are reviewed. They're really important. And this is our ability to really fight back on the Trump administration's attempts to erase history. So I'm going to let folks take a few minutes to do that in just a second. Thank you so much. And if anyone has questions about this action, feel free to put it in the chat, and we can be answering while folks write. This is really an opportunity to stand with Native communities, defend truth in our national parks, and make sure that these landscapes reflect the full story of the United States, not just the convenient version. So let's make it clear together that our history can't be erased. All right. see a couple of folks are wrapping up their comments and have submitted. Thank you so much. As a reminder, if you feel comfortable, I see one incredible comment that was posted in YouTube. So yeah, if you feel comfortable sharing what you're writing, we have a few more minutes, so no massive rush, but if you feel comfortable sharing what you wrote in the chat, please do. I'm seeing a great question in the chat about which park is most endangered. I'd say just any park is fine. You also don't need to, if you want to generally comment about the Park Service, National Park Services, generally you don't need to pick one. That's a good question. Maybe Connor can answer more. Oh yeah, Ruth saying that your comment's too long to share in the YouTube chat. Yeah, that's okay. Thank you for writing a good story. All right, we're coming close to the end of our time today, so I think we'll wrap up. But if you're still writing and you haven't finished your comment, I hope you can submit it right after the end of the call, or as we're chatting through some last steps. And yeah, thank you all, everyone. So many incredible stories in the chat about your parks that are important to you and experiences with your family and kids and protecting history. So thank you all so much for sharing. This is wonderful.
Great. Thank you all. Okay, we're going to start moving towards closing, but we do have 2 quick but important things to cover first. This has been a great hour. It's so nice to have a set aside time to come together and take these actions. I know it can be hard to get myself to do these things alone, so having a big group makes it much more likely that I'll actually send my letter, write my comment, make that post on social media, just to get over that hurdle. So I want to acknowledge all of us for showing up here today. You didn't have to spend your hour with us here, but you did. So thank you. I want to encourage us all to keep showing up. Maybe we need to get more friends to do it alongside us. Maybe it means joining an organization. We hope that Sierra Club or another group. Maybe it means you can invite your friends to come to our next action hour with you. We are going to be back next month in September with a different topic. We're going to be focusing on climate disasters next month. We really hope you'll join us for that. It's going to be a slightly different format. We really encourage you all to join with a few neighbors. Get a few people together around your kitchen table for a cup of tea, a few friends or family, anyone who you think might be interested in learning more, getting more prepared for extreme weather. We've been seeing the heat impacts already this summer. Hurricane season is picking up. Here in California, fire season is definitely top of mind. So we want to do all we can to fight climate change and prevent this from getting worse, and also prepare our communities for the impacts that we're all feeling. So that's going to be Tuesday, September 16th at same time, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, and you can RSVP for that. The link is in the chat, and we really hope to see you there. We'll send around a few email reminders as well. And finally, we are going to end with a survey because this is an evolving program and we really love your feedback. We read every single one of these, every single word you put in the survey, and you can help us improve. So please, if you have just 1 minute, it's very short, stay on and take the survey to let us know what you like today, what we can do better, what kind of actions you'd be most interested in doing in the future. In general, what topics you want to see for next month, for the September one. Let us know where we should focus. And once you've finished the survey, feel free to hop off. Thank you all so much. It was really good to share this space with you all this evening. Take care, and we'll see you next month.